But we're here now. We're ready for another round of US Grand Prix action. We've had 2 qualifying sessions already, a sprint race. Just going to move this chair out of the way. And therefore, do we really need more American Grand Prix action? I don't think so. I think we should call it here. Let's not bother handing out any points. Let's not worry about giving out any points to anybody. Let's just leave the championships as they stand, I think. Have an afternoon off and come back for the Mexican Grand Prix next week. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it. I'll see you all very, very soon. That's going to be the end because I genuinely feel like we just don't need another Formula One race. We don't need more points. Why is there a sprint race and how does it work? Very interesting concept that Formula One added to the calendar. What? 3-4 years ago now? 2021, I think was the first season with sprints. It's just basically a mini race. 6 Grand Prix throughout the season. At the moment anyway, get a sprint race. And it's just a mini version of the race, about a third of the distance. Exactly a third of the distance of a regular race. Race starts at 4 a.m. for you. Ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. How are we all doing, though? I can see Sally in the chat. I can see Moto Hollands. I can see Sarah. I can see Josh. Welcome back, lads. Talker, Azan, Pug, Nova. How are we all feeling? Stream has started. Guys, refresh. It has started. It has indeed started. We are here. We are back for the 4th time this weekend. Because we've had 4 competitive sessions. Still haven't quite got myself into the routine. I could have done free practice 1 this week. I was here for it, but didn't quite have the full amount of time needed to be able to do it. But I'd like to be able to do a couple of free practice 1 sessions a season as well. But that's another thing for another day. We won't get there this weekend. For you, it is 30 minutes past midnight. Oof. Lando can be world champion. Technically, yes. Feel good. Manchester United's first win at Anfield since 2016. Yep. Also not happy about that. It's not been a good day. It's not been a good day. I feel like this fine, right? I'm positive. Max Verstappen is not going to win this Grand Prix. Say it with me, everybody. Max Verstappen is not going to win this Grand Prix. Say it one more time. Max Verstappen is not going to win this Grand Prix. Is not going to win this Grand Prix. Think about it. Say it. Bring it into existence. Because we just cannot have it. He doesn't need any more points. Does not need any more points, does Max Verstappen. We are 40 minutes from the start of the Grand Prix. Just going to pop in and out. My heart can't take watching this race. I mean, hopefully it's nothing like the sprint start. We could do with both McLaren cars finishing the Grand Prix. Would be great. Cars are now making their way to the grid. In fact, I can probably show you it. If I go to the detailed one, there you go. You can see the cars going to the grid. Hülkenberg, Verstappen, Antonelli and Bortoletto side by side into turn 12. Very interesting. Behrman, Russell, Sainz, Albon, Lawson, Tsunoda, Hadjar, Piastri, Ocon all out on the circuit. Bit of a queue in the pit lane as well. So the cars are preparing themselves. We're getting very close to the start of this Grand Prix. Is this some reverse psychology? Do I want him to win? No, I don't. No. Max Verstappen is not going to win the Grand Prix. How many more times can I say it? Max Verstappen is not going to win this Grand Prix. Please. Not applicable is going to be another McLaren DNF Max win. Now that you've said that. Yeah, just to be fair, I should reverse psychology it really, because every time I say anything in one of these streams, it is always the opposite that does come true. I've managed to make a real habit of that in like life. Whenever I release a video as well, Formula One will announce some news. Like I released the 2026 driver lineup predictions, and then literally like 3 days later, Cadillac announced that it was going to be Perez and Bottas. I was like, great lads, just kibosh that video, why don't you? I think I did a video earlier on in the season about like Lando Norris's chances of winning the championship. I think it was just before the Netherlands, possibly, where I did like, I did a simulation of the season. And then in my simulation, Lando Norris came out as the driver most likely to win the championship, and then he DNF'd in Zandvoort. So I have got a real habit of absolutely just ruining the future of Formula One drivers by putting out my thoughts into the universe. So I just really shouldn't talk about Formula One anymore, and then things that I would want would come true. On that note, shall we look at our predictions once again? We went through them yesterday in qualifying, but a reminder of what you guys predicted for this weekend's Grand Prix. If you do want to get involved in the predictions, make sure you head over to the posts tab. Couple of days before the Mexican Grand Prix weekend, we'll pop a little predictions up there for you. You can get your vote in. I think it was just over 200 people got their votes in for the predictions this week before the US Grand Prix. These were those predictions. You had Lando Norris winning the Grand Prix, although it was very, very tight between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. Like, within a few more people voting for Verstappen first versus Norris second would have swapped those two around, with Piastri actually pretty solidly in third place for the majority of people. Not too much hope for Oscar Piastri coming into this weekend. The big surprise being Lewis Hamilton. Has he surprised? Did better in the sprint race than maybe we were expecting, but also that was because the two McLarens smashed into one another. Has qualified a little bit adrift now of his teammate. Outdid his teammate for the sprint. I think Lewis Hamilton is just becoming a bit of a sprint merchant. He did very well in the sprint. Beat Charles Leclerc there, but Charles Leclerc qualifying higher than him for the Grand Prix. Best team, you've got McLaren. They've got a good way to go to be that this weekend. No points scored in the sprint, whereas quite a lot of the other teams in and around them got a good chunk of points, or 10 points was it for Red Bull, 9 points for Mercedes, like some good points being scored. Or was it 9 points for Ferrari? They were all in around the 10, 9, 8 point margin. And then your struggle, you went for Franco Colapinto. I can see that. Yeah, it's sort of coming true. Struggling with the car yesterday. Didn't manage to get himself that far. I mean, he did manage to get into Q2. But it was a little bit lucky. Like, you only managed to get into Q2 because a couple of people got lap times deleted. So you win some, you lose some. And then you guys have gone for the flop team being Aston Martin. Lance Stroll doing his best job to make that come true. 15-minute delay. I'm still technically 15 minutes early for this stream. We usually go live 30 minutes before the Grand Prix. So 45 minutes before the Grand Prix. Technically, I'm early. P1 Verstappen, P2 Piastri, P3 Leclerc. Wow, you've got Piastri coming from a long way back, Prim. P4 Russell, P5 Norris. Cool. Russell jumping in front of Norris. Interesting. It'll be interesting. Believe Russell will get a podium. Hello, Antonio, mate. Send hello to Sally. Sally is in the chat. So is Frederick. So is your editor. Bro is living nerd emoji. Yeah, I do have the glasses. People are spoiled with 1 hour before now. Very true. I've done it a couple of times. I just go live when I have got the time to. When I've got the time to, I'm happy to go live, happy to chat. Piastri podium is unlikely, in my opinion. Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there. We'll go through the starting grid momentarily. Just quickly remind ourselves of the situation in terms of tyres and degradation around here. So 56 laps of the COTA circuit to come, a race distance of 308.728 kilometers, because the circuit is just over 5.5 kilometers long. Lap record here, 136.169. It's been absolutely smashed. But we're looking at the tyre compounds more than anything else. It's an interesting one, as we mentioned yesterday before qualifying. how the teams would play this, because it is the C1 hard compound tyre and then a little jump in the compounds. Pirelli have once again decided that a jump in compounds will just spice up the race a little bit. So instead of being the soft, we have the C3 medium and then a C4 soft compound tyre brought to this weekend. I still feel like the one-stop strategy will be used by the majority. You know, they've chunked through those C4 tyres yesterday in qualifying, especially those top 10 drivers. But you never know, maybe someone's going to go for a two-stop, chuck in a set of soft compound tyres at some point if they've got the longevity in them to do a race stint. I think the majority, though, I don't know, do you start on the medium tyre? Because we've seen that the tyres are lasting a little bit longer than expected, certainly than Pirelli are expecting, or even the teams are expecting. So maybe we will see a lot more guys starting on the medium, going on to the hard. But we've seen that starting on the hard and going on to the medium over the last couple of races, it's actually been beneficial for a lot of those drivers. So I think we could see a lot of drivers starting on the hard compound tyre and seeing what they can do from there. Anything but yet another Max win. Give me 2023 vibes, Antonio. Max hasn't actually won that much this season. Is making a little bit of a habit of winning post-summer break. Lando will mess up into turn 1, but still win. I mean, I'd take it. I'll take it. If you're offering it now, I'll take it. But as I say, the tyre compounds that people will be using, I think it'd be interesting to see where people start, because the tyre degradation is usually fairly high here. It's quite bumpy circuit, you know, particularly down into turn 12 if you watch the cars at top speed. Coming down there with the DRS open, like you can really see how bumpy it is in some of these braking zones, and that does put extra load on the tires and therefore degrades the tires a little bit more. There's also quite a lot of high speed, you know, turn 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The tires are holding on for absolute dear life. We saw it with Isaac Hadjar yesterday, where he lost the tiniest little slip from him going into turn 6, and the car completely unsettled and into the barriers. So it is very likely that we might see a higher tire deg than we're expecting, but then we're not expecting much, are we? Because over the last few races, tire degradation hasn't really been a thing to talk about. It's been very much a one-stop easy one. Do you reckon we'll see a plank wear disqualification like 2023? I mean, if Ferrari have got anything to go with it, I could certainly see a Ferrari driver or two being disqualified for plank wear. Charles Leclerc was lifting and coasting after about 12 laps last time out in Singapore. 56 laps of COTA. Literally one of the highest plank wear circuits on the calendar. I think we're going to see some Ferrari lifting and coasting pretty early on. What are we talking about? Max is going to win. Close that gap once again. Look, Freezer, you've come to the wrong place. I know I'm wearing an AlphaTauri jumper this weekend, but it's just the one that was not in the wash. We are McLaren fans through and through. And we believe that Max Verstappen will DNF. Okay? We believe Max Verstappen will not win the US Grand Prix. Say it with me one more time. Max Verstappen will not win the United States Grand Prix. He's won the sprint. Doesn't need any more. Although the trophy for this weekend does look absolutely incredible. It's like a bull's head. And it would be very cool for a racing bull or a Red Bull car to win the Bull Trophy. But even so, double Ferrari disqualification, that could also happen, to be fair. Let's look at the Drivers' Championship just before we jump into the qualifying board itself. Just under, half an hour before we get on going. Glenn Powell, the actor there on the grid. I have never seen Glenn Powell in anything. Is he an actor of note? Can anyone name something that Glenn Powell is in that I might have seen? Because I do not recognize that man in the slightest. You can be a McLaren fan, but be realistic. I'll be realistic once once we get there. Do I have a picture of the trophy? I can quickly find one. Trophy. See if there's an image. US Grand Prix 2025 trophy? Why is there no pictures of this? Louis Vuitton. Is it Louis Vuitton? It is Louis Vuitton. Okay. There you go. I'll show you a quick pitch. There's got to be a better picture than that. Threads? Anyone on Threads? Is there a picture there? Oh, there you go. It's a little bit of a better picture. Bada bing, bada boom. Start of the McLaren delusion. It's not the start. I've been here all my life. There you go. There's the US Grand Prix trophy for you. As I say, it's pretty nice. It's very America build, don't get me wrong. But as trophies go, I'm sure Nico Hülkenberg would rather have this than a Lego one. It's got a pretty cool look to it. I do like that the American Grand Prix do try when it comes to trophies. Like they do something a little bit different. They, I suppose, aren't building up the European tracks often build up a little bit of a reputation in that they have the same trophy year on year, and therefore it builds that reputation of a certain type of trophy. Like if Hungary changed its trophies now, I think you'd be disappointed. But I think because the US Grand Prix are all fairly young, they can get away with mixing it up season to season. Like I think that's why I know Nico said he loves the Lego one, but I think he'd have preferred like a classic Silverstone trophy other than the Lego one if he could have chosen. Lovely, it's two of the tracks that make the skull. Yeah, exactly. Like it's just a very cool trophy. And makes sense. Like it goes with the let's just delete that from the chat. Yeah, I agree with that, Hulk. Please don't spam. It's okay. We've just deleted someone from the track, so don't worry. The Lego trophy should be an addition to, not the only trophy. I think it was, though, wasn't it? I think they did get a sort of Silverstone trophy as well. Or at least the winner got the Silverstone trophy as well. I think. And then I think the Lego trophy was sort of an aside. But, you know, Lego probably paid quite a lot of money for their advertisement, so makes sense that they would do that for Lego. Lego and Formula One are doing a lot of work together at the moment. They even had an entire Lego race in Miami, so it makes sense. Best is the Monaco Winners' Trophy. I don't know. I'd quite like a Hungary one, but I suppose Hungary is very niche in the way that the trophy is a non-metallic trophy. Get me some ceramic. Oh, where were we? We were looking at the Drivers' Championship before we got waylaid looking at the US Grand Prix trophy. Drivers' standings, Oscar Piastri still top of it post-sprint race, but Max Verstappen now 55 points adrift. He has made up 42 points worth of gap between him and Piastri in just 4 races and a sprint, 6 races and 2 sprints to go. Starting to get a little bit nervous. I'm not going to lie to you. Starting to get a little bit nervous when it comes to Max Verstappen. Like 55 points should, for any normal human being, still be too much. Max Verstappen just isn't a normal human being in this regulation cycle. You know, we've seen him win 10 races in a row. We've seen him dominate an entire season. We've seen him break record after record after record. He is not a normal human being when it has come to these regulations from 2022 up until 2025. He is something else. And therefore, I'm a little bit worried. Lando Norris in the middle, 314 points for him. Again, both of the McLaren drivers missing out on any kind of points when it came to yesterday's sprint race. George Russell, 244 points. Still technically in the championship standings, but I don't think it's going to happen for George Russell, bless him. He's done a very good job this season. He's earned that Mercedes contract. Going to slot into 4th place in the driver's standings, I think, for this year. 2026, though, could be the year that George Russell has been very patiently waiting for. We have to remember, George Russell could have gone into the Mercedes car in 2020 or in 2021, but had to wait another couple of seasons at Williams, then came in for 2022, and by that point the Mercedes car was nowhere near as quick as it had been before. So you got a feel for George Russell. I know he's been able to get a few wins here and there, and he's had excellent weekends inside of that Mercedes car, but he has also missed out on the opportunity of battling for championships and maybe even going toe-to-toe. Imagine, George Russell goes into the Mercedes seat in 2020. Then in 2021, maybe it's a Verstappen-Hamilton-Russell championship that we're watching throughout 2021. Could have been very interesting indeed, but all hypotheticals now. And actually, I'm not sure that would have happened because I think George Russell has needed a few seasons at Mercedes to really flourish. A lot of those question marks that we had over George Russell even a couple of seasons ago, I think this season he's put those to bed and is now, in my opinion, the second best driver on the grid. Like a really, really stunning drive this year from George Russell. I know 6 races still to go, but so far, very, very solid. What driver would you bring back to the current grid? I mean, Jenson Button. Got an itch that track limits will steal the spotlight. Yeah, we're definitely going to have the track limits up for this one. Down into turn 12 through turn 19. Well, we've seen track limits already play a big part in yesterday's qualifying. So certainly Formula One are going to be back with some track limits, and the stewards are going to be there with their magnifying glasses again, looking at whether the tyres have fully left the circuit. Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton just behind in 5th and 6th place going into this Grand Prix. Again, feel like they're in a little bit of a no man's land in Ferrari now. Both of them pretty unhappy with how that Ferrari is doing at this point in the season, and I don't think we're going to see any massive improvements from the Ferrari pair, especially because, as we mentioned before, the lifting and coasting is going to be pretty substantial throughout this Grand Prix. The plank wear, well, unless they're running that car a little bit higher up than they normally do, but they usually have to run it a bit lower to try and get the pace out of the car and then lift and coast, because if they use that pace too often, it then disappears and breaks itself. Burnt my lander there. The forgotten man of Formula One, the safety car driver. He leads a lot of laps, but nobody really knows who he is, does they? Don't hear a lot from Bernd. But there he is at the start with Martin Brundle. Just below that, Kimi Antonelli now on 89 points. Got a little bit of a gap over at Alex Albon once again. There was a point in the season where Alex Albon was sitting in 7th place, let's not forget. But Alex Albon down in 8th, Isaac Hadjar 9th. Carlos Sainz has moved himself up into 10th place. So Carlos Sainz can actually be behind Isaac Hadjar. Behind Alex Albon, overtake Isaac Hadjar by the end of this Grand Prix, which is very impressive second half of the season for Carlos Sainz. Like, the last 5 Grand Prix, or 4 Grand Prix in a sprint, have been very, very solid from Carlos. And I've had to eat my words a little bit because I thought he was struggling a little bit in that Williams car, wasn't quite getting to grips with it. I think he just needed the summer break to reset, recalibrate. He's back at it with a vengeance, is Carlos Sainz. Nico Hülkenberg is there in 11th place, Fernando Alonso in 12th. But again, there's 1 point between those positions. Hadjar 1 point ahead of Sainz. Sainz 1 point ahead of Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg 1 point ahead of Alonso. Still very much to play for in and amongst those guys there. Let's just hide that for a second. If we could rattle through some chat messages, that would be amazing. Lance Stroll, 32 points in 13th place. Liam Lawson in 30th. On 30 points, sorry, not in 30th, on 30 points. Sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once. Esteban Ocon, 28 points in 15th. Then Sonoda has jumped up into 16th place. Gasly, Bortoletto, Behrman is there as well. Canco Colapinto, the only driver still on the grid, yet to see any points scored. Which driver from the current grid would you remove? I don't think I'd remove anybody, really. I quite like the grid as it is right now. I mean, the obvious answer is like Lance Stroll, but I feel like everyone's going to say that. Everyone else is kind of all right, you know? I feel like everyone deserves their position to an extent. But yeah, I think a lot of people are going to say that they would remove Stroll, right? Oh, a few subscriptions as well. Thank you guys for subscribing to the channel. Massively appreciate that. I'd remove Ocon or Stroll. Yeah, Ocon maybe. But Ocon's done pretty well in recent years. I think Ocon has deserved his position to an extent. Shall we talk about the grid, though? As we get to 16 minutes before the start of the Grand Prix, and we see the drivers at the front of the grid for the national anthem. Always happens 16 minutes before the formation lap. It's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? I don't know why they decided 16 minutes. I suppose because maybe by the time the national anthem is finished, then there's only a quarter of an hour to go until the start of the Grand Prix. And this is where really the cars start to get into the motions of things. So like with 15 minutes left, a lot of the spectators have to leave the grid. A lot of the personnel from the team have to leave the grid. And this is where a few of the regulations come into play around how long the drivers are allowed to have the tire blankets on for, how long the tire blankets are allowed to be connected for, and things along those lines. Report the bad comments. Yeah, please do. Please do. People will be like, Lance hate is so forced. He can't. He's not done himself any favors in the sprint race, has he? By literally smashing into the side of Esteban Ocon. But yeah, Lance Stroll has moments, but I just think even his heart isn't in it anymore. The most American thing ever. Some attack helicopters going over as we listen to the end of the national anthem. And 15 minutes to go. Thank you, Martin, for the super chat. I'm going to assume that is Argentinian money of some kind. Let's go Franco. It's going to be an interesting one. Starting 15th, Franco Colapinto, so we'll see how it goes. Am I British? I am indeed. UK gang. All my thoughts about Formula E. I was talking to Dan Noskill about this, actually. I just don't really watch it overly often. I'd rather catch an IndyCar race than a Formula E race. I still think, you know, it's still very early in its life, really, Formula E, isn't it? And it's building up slowly, but it still just doesn't have the history and the prestige of a lot of other motorsports. It's getting there, though. It's getting there. Oscar needs to win the next 4 races. I mean, that would be great. Just lock in that championship standings. Can I turn the track map on? Yes, we will indeed have the track map a little bit closer to the start of the race. Don't you worry. Yuki will score points today. It's not impossible. Starting 13th. Much love from the Jamaica gang. Wow, thank you so much, man. Giovanni. Appreciate it. Same, I want to watch the Indy 500 or 24 Hours Le Mans. Yeah, exactly. I always watch the Indy 500, to be fair. I made my girlfriend sit through the Indy 500 with me this season. I don't think she massively enjoyed it, but it's a bit of a spectacle, isn't it? And there's a lot of collisions, there's a lot of stopping, but when you do have the cars going, it is high octane. the Indy 500. So I really enjoy that. I do try and catch the 24-hour races, but more so the highlights, because I can't just sit there and watch it for 24 hours. Like, imagine if I did one of those streams. Maybe one day we'll do that. We'll stream like in a 24 hours of Le Mans or something. That would be fun. But also like a nightmare. I don't know what we talk about for 24 hours, but it could be quite fun to do one time. Let's run through the grid then. I know I've had it up on the screen for a moment, but just in case you weren't here for qualifying yesterday, give you a little rundown of it. Max Verstappen absolutely dominated qualifying yesterday. Made it look very, very easy indeed. Did it actually in one lap. So everybody else in the top 10 did 2 flying laps in Q3. Max Verstappen went for 2 flying laps, but actually missed it. The checkered flag was flown just before Max Verstappen was able to cross the start-finish line. So Verstappen didn't get a second bite of the cherry and still managed to be on pole position ahead of everybody else by a couple of tenths of a second. Like, it really was absolutely dominant from Max Verstappen. Lando Norris starts beside him, so same as we had in the sprint race. It did feel like Norris was going to be closest to Max Verstappen, but he was not close enough, like in many people's opinions. So Max Verstappen taking pole position, Lando Norris second. Charles Leclerc with a run at this absolute ridiculousness. Like, incredible qualifying from Charles Leclerc, has to be said, considering where we were expecting the Ferraris to be and like where the Ferraris were in sprint qualifying. You know, just about sneaking through into Q3 at the last possible moment when it came to sprint qualifying. Now up into third place and possibly fighting for a podium position. This is the thing, though, with Charles Leclerc and Ferrari. How much is he going to have to lift and coast? And we know that George Russell does have some pace inside of that Mercedes car. He was able to attack Max Verstappen during the sprint race yesterday. We only got 10 laps of sprint race. So with George Russell 56 laps in front of him, certainly will get at least 1 or 2 opportunities to have a go at the back of Charles Leclerc's Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton, his old teammate, just behind him in 5th place. So 5th place for Lewis Hamilton. Again, like, better than we were expecting, but slower than Charles Leclerc. And it's like, I don't know. It's one of those things from me. I was very impressed with Hamilton, but I was expecting him to be ahead of Leclerc just because he was in the sprint race, I guess. But Leclerc managing to turn it on when he needed to. Oscar Piastri in 6th place. First corner chaos would be crazy. I mean, anything to go by from yesterday, if you're in that top 6, I wouldn't be too happy about it, because what was it? Nico Hülkenberg was in 4th. He was wiped out. Fernando Alonso was just behind. He was also wiped out. So I feel like, you know, anyone in that top 6, they need to just be careful. You want to tiptoe yourself through turn 1, I think. Like, wait for it a little bit later. Go for your move later on, I think, is what Oscar Piastri learned yesterday. You can do the switchback, but not when there's 17 cars behind you all braking late into turn 1. Because it's a very tricky turn 1 here. It's uphill, then to your left. It's a very tight left-hander as well. I just feel like Oscar Piastri got that a little bit wrong in the sprint. And hopefully nobody in the top 6 will get it wrong again. Kimi Antonelli just behind. Kimi Antonelli's had his moments as well, though. He was turn 3 in Austria, where he wiped out Max Verstappen. He's a little bit further away from Max Verstappen this time around, but Kimi Antonelli has hit into Charles Leclerc earlier on in the season, has hit Max Verstappen earlier on in the season. Maybe just got one more hit in him, Kimi Antonelli, to really spice up the title battle. We know that him and Max Verstappen are actually pretty good friends as well, so Oscar Piastri starting just in front of Kimi Antonelli. You never know. Ollie Behrman starting in 8th place. Best of the rest, Ollie Behrman. And he really had the bit between his teeth, didn't he, Ollie Behrman, after not being able to show his pace when it came to the sprint qualifying because of the chaos in sprint qualifying 1, then not really being able to show his pace in the sprint because he got a 10-second penalty. He took those both to heart and put in one of the best qualifyings of his season so far. And 8th place for Ollie Behrman. Carlos Sainz starting inside of the points as he's making it a pretty regular thing going into this second half of the year. And then Fernando Alonso, his compatriot, starting alongside him, also inside of the top 10, looking to add some points to his tally. Whoa, thank you so much. A real fluctuation of new subs coming in there. Massively appreciate it. We are trying to get 150,000 subscribers before the end of the season on YouTube. So if you are on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We're also trying to get 700 followers over on Twitch. So if you do have a Twitch account, head over to Twitch, give us a little bit of a follow. Maybe you've even got Twitch Prime that you could send my way. You know, if you've got Amazon Prime but you're not really a Twitch person, head over to Twitch, just use it this once, send me over your Twitch Prime, subscribe to the channel. It's completely free and Jeff Bezos loses out on $5 that come my way. Just outside of the top 10 then, Nico Hulkenberg knocking on the door of points once more. He was a little bit frustrated by Oscar Piastri going for the switchback yesterday after starting in P4 in the sprint race. He thought points were most certainly on the cards, but starts in 11th rather than 4th for the full Grand Prix. Liam Lawson starts in 12th place, but that RB car does seem to have good race pace. And Yuki Tsunoda starting in 13th place. Those two have had a little bit of a tete-a-tete this weekend. Yuki Tsunoda a couple of times has been on the radio complaining about Liam Lawson getting in his way during qualifying sessions and maybe just taking Yuki Tsunoda off of his rhythm in qualifying so that he can't make it through to as high as he thinks he should be. Yuki Tsunoda, Liam Lawson starting within touching distance. Pierre Gasly, Yuki Tsunoda's old teammate, starting alongside him. Those guys used to be in that second Red Bull team together. Yuki Tsunoda now in the main team. Pierre Gasly, a number 1 in his own right at Alpine, ahead of his teammate Franco Colapinto in 15th place, who just snuck through yesterday when it came to qualifying, mainly because a few of the drivers behind had their lap times deleted. Gabriel Bortoleto, 16th place for him, was not very happy inside of that Stakes Alba car. Esteban Ocon, his car put back together again after Lance Stroll wiped him out. He starts in 17th place. Alex Albon and Lance Stroll both had lap times deleted, hence why they're down in 18th and 19th. Not where you'd expect them to be, but track limits are track limits, and they are very tight around this Austin circuit. Isaac Hadjar had a big shunt in qualifying yesterday, brought out the red flags as well, did Isaac Hadjar, as he went for a spin going into turn 6 and into the barriers. Again, his car back together again. He starts at the back of the grid though. Interesting that the medium tyre is the compound of choice for the majority of the grid. I thought it was going to be. I thought maybe we'd see somebody inside of the top 10 gamble on a hard compound tyre, but it's actually Charles Leclerc gambling on the soft compound tyre that is the one to keep your eye on. They are a slightly scrubbed set that you would have used in qualifying yesterday, Charles Leclerc, but going for something a little bit different inside of that Ferrari. Maybe because, you know, he doesn't think he's got the pace of Verstappen and Norris, so possibly needs something to go his way in terms of strategy if he's going to be able to move forward in any particular way. Thank you for the new subscribers and even more Twitch follows as well. I can see them coming up on the screen. Natalie, Nicholas, Luke, thank you so much. JE $, like baby no money. BBNO $. JE $ there, and tax authorities also following the channel over on Twitch. Thank you guys so much. We are just a couple of minutes away then from the start of this Grand Prix. As I say, Charles Leclerc on the soft compound tyres, maybe one to watch. Bortoleto, Ocon, Albon, Stroll and Hadjar also breaking the routine of starting on a fresh set of medium tyres. Oh no, sorry, Fernando Alonso. One lap he completed on those medium tyres. That would have been during free practice. They'd have done that lap most likely. So Fernando Alonso doing one lap on those medium tyres, slightly scrubbed set before going into the race. Let's see if we've got everything loaded up then for our race board. Oh, we've got the championship up there. We will go back to that throughout the race, undoubtedly, as we need to jump into who is where in the championship. But you can see the drivers' radio messages coming through now. And also gonna just get this to the right size. There we go. Lando didn't look too confident. I mean, it's going to be tough. Max Verstappen is such a difficult driver to get past at the best of times. And you got to remember, Lando Norris was trying to get past Max Verstappen here last year, and it didn't go well for him. So, like, he's well aware that Max Verstappen is going to be a difficult driver to get past to win this race. But he also knows that those 7 points that he could gain by getting into first place rather than being in second, especially if Piastri stays down there in 5th or 6th, then they could be absolutely massive when it comes to the championship. We'll talk about the championship a little bit later on, though. We'll give the drivers a few laps to get themselves into their positions for this Grand Prix. But yeah, Lando Norris knows how decisive this weekend could be, I think. Knowing that the points available to him could put him in such a strong position in the championship. I mean, if things go really wrong for Oscar Piastri, a win here for Lando Norris could even put him top of the Drivers' Championship going into the final 5 races of the season. Which of the special COTA liveries is your favourite? Oh, we talked about that during the sprint. But yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts in the chat. Which of the COTA liveries do you think is the nicest? I think the RB one is the most exciting one. It's very different to what we've had before. But Haas always do a decent livery, to be fair, when they come to the US. As we look down the grid now from turn 1, the formation lap just a minute or so away from us. Softs is a hopeful strategy. I think he's just trying to zig where everyone else is zagging, right? Trying to do something a little bit different. But yeah, it's a gamble from Charles Leclerc, particularly in a Ferrari that's not the nicest on its tyres compared to the McLarens and the Red Bulls in front of him. But Charles Leclerc may be going for track position early on. Could be the other thing that he's trying to go for here. If he can get the track position very, very early rather than having to fight for it later on. But then he's always going to have to pit earlier on as well. So it is an interesting choice. Don't get me wrong. It's a very interesting choice indeed that Charles Leclerc is going for. But Max Verstappen is going to get us underway here then in Austin for the formation lap. And we're up towards turn 1. DRS disabled for now, as you can see down at the bottom of your screens as well. We're thinking another big crash at the start. I certainly hope not. I'd like to see what the two McLarens can do in terms of race pace here. I'd like to see them actually finish a racing lap of this Grand Prix circuit. As George Russell said yesterday, George Russell was very happy to pick up his second place, but he was also very clearly, saying, look, we didn't get to see what the McLarens can do. He was not expecting to be getting a second place again this time around in the race if the two McLarens are still in it. So the McLarens do have pace here and the other teams know it. We just want to be able to see it. More points for Carlos, please. Charles Leclerc first. Hamilton will finish 3rd. Some interesting discussions in the chat, actually. No crash at the start, please. Some people want to crash. Some people don't want to crash. What will we see? The formation lap then almost over as Max Verstappen enters the final part of the lap. Third sector, of course, starts between turn 12 and turn 13. Verstappen then will start to slow up the pack a touch just because Isaac Hadjar is all the way back at turn 11 at this point. And actually, Isaac Hadjar leaving quite a gap between him and Lance Stroll. He's going to have to hurry up a little bit. Do have to stay within a certain distance of the cars ahead. Isaac Hadjar separating himself out. George Russell doing the same behind Charles Leclerc and just giving himself a little bit of clean air to run into. Hope Lewis wins, but I think that's wishful thinking. I also think that's pretty wishful thinking. Max wins easily. McLaren's might crash again. The nerves are kicking in. I really hope not. I really, really hope not. Here we go then. Max Verstappen. Final couple of burnouts on the grid. Lando Norris moves to the left-hand side. And this is the thing here. Up towards turn 1, Lando Norris is going to have the inside line. And I think it's 5 out of the last 9 Grand Prix or 7 out of the last 9 Grand Prix. Can't remember the exact stat right now. The second place has actually led the first lap going up the hill. Here we go then. Lance Stroll and Isaac Hadjar, the final drivers to come around the Mario Andretti corner. Turn 20 here in COTA. And Isaac Hadjar, again, taking his time. Max Verstappen and Lando Norris have been stationary for a good amount of time. The medical car nearly catching up to the back of Isaac Hadjar. How slow Isaac Hadjar is moving. And here we go then. The green flag is waved. 5 red lights are ablazing. And we are going to get underway here once more in Texas. We had a sprint race. Now's the real deal. And Max Verstappen gets a much better launch. Charles Leclerc is going to be alongside Lando Norris. Charles Leclerc goes very wide and is going to try and go around the outside of Lando Norris for second place. And he's going to be able to get there, I think. Yes, Charles Leclerc has made up the position. Oscar Piastri has also got a much better start and has been able to get ahead of Lewis Hamilton. George Russell has remained in 4th place for now. But Lando Norris versus Charles Leclerc is playing out. And Charles Leclerc was able to get the jump on Lando Norris up into 2nd place. Hamilton up into 4th. George Russell now down into 6th place. The Mercedes car getting a little bit out of shape through the first couple of corners. Max Verstappen, though, continues on. And good news for Oscar Piastri as his teammate has got a little bit closer to him. And Piastri now fighting with George Russell again, but George Russell not able to make it stick this time around. Piastri remains in 5th place. Kimi Antonelli in 7th. And then Behrman, Sainz, Hülkenberg now up into the top 10 as Fernando Alonso was shunned out of it. Yuki Tsunoda also with a really solid start in his Red Bull car. He's up into 11th place. And now looking at the back of Nico Hülkenberg, maybe he's going to go for a move for 10th. And Tsunoda does go for a move for 10th. And there's a yellow flag in that middle sector. Who has gone wrong in that middle part of the lap then? I think it's Alex Albon who was sent for a spin. And double waved yellows for Alex Albon coming through that part of the circuit. Albon is going to drop all the way down the pack. And was already not having the best of times, Alex Albon. And now going very, very slowly indeed. Max Verstappen, though, comes around the final corner and is going to complete the first of 56 laps. Oh, it is lagging. Apologies. Let me just sort out the map. Might just be going to give it a refresh. Might take a second to rejoin, though. Max Verstappen, though, going strong indeed. Piastri having a little look up the inside of turn 1, but not able to do anything this time around. Hamilton's pace looking good, and George Russell, actually, the driver, putting Piastri under pressure. We've got Max Verstappen leading by over 1.5 seconds now. Piastri is still under pressure from George Russell, though. That's the battle that I'm catching right now. George Russell not able to make a move. As I was saying, Charles Leclerc in 2nd place, got the much better launch around the outside at turn 2. And Charles Leclerc doing the job. As we're going down the back straight now. Soft and wide line at the start. Did wonders for Charles Leclerc. Yeah, he absolutely nailed it, to be fair. Did a very, very good job indeed, did Charles Leclerc. Just judging it perfectly at that point. Was able to go around the outside and able to slot himself between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. And then once you get to turn 3, you're on the inside line. Once you get to turn 2, you're on the inside line. And he got the move done before they could get to turn 3. I don't know what is wrong with the map. It keeps lagging ridiculously. Let me reset it once again. So it's not my end, unfortunately. It is running on my screen, so it must be a multi-viewer thing, which is frustrating. Carlos Sainz making a move on Ollie Behrman and gets that move done. Carlos Sainz up into 8th place. And the move from the Williams driver as Max Verstappen starts lap 3 of this Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc 1.7 seconds behind. Lando Norris within DRS range. Hamilton, Piastri, Russell all with DRS as well. So this is where Charles Leclerc is going to have a little bit of a battle on his hands, right? Because Leclerc is now going to be in a position where those soft compound tyres are going to start to fall away from him a touch. And once those tyres do start to fall away from him, everybody behind is still going to have some fresh medium rubber. Max Verstappen, though, disappearing off into the distance, nearly a 2-second gap at the front of this race. Does feel like it's going to be a comfortable victory. It's going to be Max Verstappen disappearing into the distance. The two McLarens struggling. Lando Norris closing into the back of Charles Leclerc. Needs to get that second position back sooner rather than later if he's going to hunt down Max Verstappen for the victory. Charles Leclerc, though, not making it easy as they go down and towards turn 12. And Leclerc just closes the door on Lando Norris through turn 12 and then shuts it once again at turn 13. So Lando Norris went for the move there, but Charles Leclerc not taken aback by it and ends up taking no trouble from Lando Norris. Oscar Piastri has dropped outside of DRS range of Lewis Hamilton, though. Piastri really struggling with it. There's a collision between Albon and Bortoleto that is under investigation. That must have been what sent Alex Albon into a spin. The Williams car now down in 20th place. Ollie Behrman has also been overtaken by Yuki Tsunoda. So Behrman down into 10th position in his Haas car. Tsunoda up into the point scoring places. A really solid start from Yuki. 14th place up to 9th within the first 3 laps of this Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc, though, still under pressure from Lando Norris. Lando Norris surely is going to go for it once again when he gets round to turn 11 and gets the DRS through to turn 12. The S's are complete. Charles Leclerc, that incredible image of Charles Leclerc at sunset just coming through that first sector. Almost repeated, not quite sunset yet here in Texas, but they come around turn 10 and through turn 11 then. DRS is going to be wide open for Lando Norris once more. Let's see what Lando Norris can do. He's a little bit further back this time around, but he's gaining on the Ferrari with a ferocious amount of pace, but Charles Leclerc knows where to position that Ferrari to make sure that it is tricky for Lando Norris, and Norris knows a DNF here would be an absolute nightmare for him after missing out on points in yesterday's sprint as well. So Lando Norris trying the switch back as well, goes very deep, but not able to do it this time around. Charles Leclerc able to just deal with the pressure from Lando Norris, and Norris has to stay in 3rd place for now, but is closer than he was before, and maybe he's going to go for a positional change up towards turn 1 if he can hang on to the back of the Ferrari through this final sector. Lewis Hamilton has escaped away from Oscar Piastri. Piastri now down in 5th place and 1.3 seconds off the back. Here comes Lando Norris. Does he try the switch back? He does indeed, but isn't able to carry enough speed to put Charles Leclerc under pressure for now. And in fact, Lewis Hamilton closed the gap to Lando Norris through turn 1 as Max Verstappen sets the fastest lap of the race so far. Max Verstappen leading by 3 seconds to Charles Leclerc's Ferrari in 2nd spot. And this is just causing Lando Norris to lose time to Max Verstappen here more than anything else. Lando not able to get past Leclerc in these last couple of laps. And Lando Norris looks closer than he has before. He's going to have DRS once again as he gets partway down this straight. DRS is open behind the Ferrari. Also gets into the slipstream. Lando Norris is quite far back and he doesn't able to go for the move. Just hesitated a little bit there, I think, Lando Norris more than anything else, and biding his time behind the Ferrari. But there's not too much time that you've got. Lando, 3 seconds now the gap between Leclerc and Verstappen. That gets much longer. You're going to have quite a battle to get behind the Red Bull once again. Lewis Hamilton also just waiting and watching, hoping that his teammate can cause Lando Norris a little bit of a problem. And then Lando Norris can move maybe out of the way. It could be a double Ferrari podium if Lewis Hamilton is able to get past the McLaren. Oscar Piastri is gaining, though, and Lewis Hamilton's made a little error there, which has just put Piastri inside of DRS range once again. Piastri's not going to have DRS down towards turn 1 and then drops out of DRS range anyway by the time they get through that first turn. Lando Norris trying his best to get into 3rd place, but maybe just needs, into 2nd place. But how long can Lando Norris really stay there and get within half a second of Charles Leclerc and his tyres actually hold on? George Russell has dropped outside of DRS range from Piastri. Kimi Antonelli another second behind as well. It's Carlos Sainz, the first driver with DRS in that midfieldy pack. Tsunoda and Behrman, no DRS for them either at the moment. Oh, and a lot of track limits for Isaac Hadjar. He's already broken track limits twice in the first 6 laps. So Isaac Hadjar needs to be a little bit worried. 4 track limits infringements gets you a 5-second penalty. Remember, you get 3 strikes, your 4th strike, and you're not out, but you get a 5-second penalty, which can be pretty damaging, considering. Just going to try and reset the map once again. I do apologize, guys. I am trying to reset the map. Oh! And there is Kimi Antonelli, who's gone for a spin. And Kimi Antonelli, has he collided with Carlos Sainz, possibly? There's definitely something that's gone on with Kimi Antonelli as he's at the side of the track. Kimi Antonelli is going to fall all the way to the back of the pack then. He is still running, but a little bit of contact for Kimi Antonelli. And who's that? And Antonelli is stopped. Antonelli is stopped by the side of the track then. Has Carlos Sainz hit Antonelli? Yeah, he must have done, because Carlos Sainz is also going very slowly indeed. And I think Carlos Sainz might have also come to a stop. So Antonelli and Sainz have definitely collided with one another somewhere. Carlos Sainz has come to a stop, and it's a virtual safety car for Carlos Sainz, who is stationary between turn 19 and turn 20. Kimi Antonelli has been hit by Carlos Sainz by the looks of things. No replay of the incident as of yet. Didn't see what happened live, so I'll let you know what happens when I see it. Here is the replay of it. Turn 15. Carlos Sainz goes down the inside. Oh, and yeah, Kimi Antonelli hits into the side of Carlos Sainz. And be interesting to see who the steward's blame for that. I think Carlos Sainz has gone for a gap that doesn't really exist. Carlos Sainz isn't really alongside either. And Antonelli into the gravel. I think Carlos... Yeah, here we go. Let's have a look from Carlos's perspective. This will tell us a little bit more. Yeah, Carlos, I think, has dived in there a little bit. And Carlos Sainz saying Antonelli just turned in, but I don't think Carlos Sainz really had the position there. He wasn't up alongside enough, in my opinion, to be able to say that he should have been given that position to race, to be honest, Carlos Sainz. But Sainz has come to a stop. Antonelli continues on, but down in 19th place. That does reshuffle the points a little bit. Obviously, Carlos Sainz was running up in the point scoring places behind Kimi Antonelli, who was running 7th. So Tsunoda now jumps up into 7th place. A stunning start from Yuki at this point. Like, he has absolutely smashed it as Yuki Tsunoda from 13th up into 7th right now. Ollie Behrman up into 8th place. Nico Hulkenberg back up into the points in 9th. Fernando Alonso, the main beneficiary though, he jumps up into 10th place where he started the Grand Prix. Alonso dropped down the positions at the beginning of the race and is back at it now. And there's the replay of Alex Albon making contact with Gabriel Bortoleto. Both of the Williamses in the wars, and both of the Williamses at the back of the pack as Alex Albon decides to come in and pit. So Albon now behind Kimi Antonelli in the racing order. Who am I supporting? I am a big McLaren advocate. Let's have a little look then. Whilst the virtual safety car is deployed, if I can find my mouse. Where is my mouse? There it is. Let's have a little look at the championship standings at this moment. So with Max Verstappen gaining 25 points as it stands right now, he would be on 306. So he would be within 40 points of Oscar Piastri going into the final 5 race weekends of the year. Remember, 5 races and 2 sprint races to go. Lando Norris would also gain a 5-point advantage on his teammate, so he'd be 17 points behind the championship leader. And that top 3 getting very tasty indeed as we go into the final few races of the season. George Russell stay in 4th place. Charles Leclerc would be up nearing that 200-point margin. 195 points for Charles Leclerc if he manages to stay where he is. Hamilton up to 142. Alonso would gain a point. Hulkenberg gaining 2 points would move him up into 9th place in the standings. Yuki Tsunoda, a big 6-point swing for him, would move him into 28 points and level with Esteban Ocon for the season. That's how the season has played out for Yuki Tsunoda inside of that Red Bull car. Oops, didn't mean to press that. There we go. But we are going to continue on. Let's see then. And this virtual safety car hopefully is going to come to a close. Max Verstappen still continuing on. We have got stewards, marshals. I get marshals and stewards mixed up in my head so often. No idea why. We've got marshals running out onto the track to pick up some debris that was going up the hill towards turn 1. We're now going to get a little bit of the virtual safety car should have all the cars sort of running in the same order with similar gaps between them. The virtual safety car is ending and we're off. So we are going to get back underway with racing then with Max Verstappen starting lap 9 of this Grand Prix. And Max Verstappen still leading by just about 3 seconds. Lando Norris losing out in the virtual safety car is now 1.9 seconds behind Charles Leclerc. Whether he decided to drop away from the Ferrari to maintain his tyres a little bit better during that safety car, virtual safety car, I should say. Lewis Hamilton, though, not doing the same, staying within DRS range of the McLaren ahead of him. Piastri in 5th, George Russell in 6th. Ocon has just had a little investigation by the stewards, but no longer anything doing. So Ocon's investigation is cleared. big gap between Verstappen and Leclerc. Yeah, it is quite a chunky gap between the two, isn't it? It's Verstappen just showing the pace of that Red Bull, stretching his legs at this point. And Verstappen, at least, you know, there's the other thing you forget when you're sort of leading the Grand Prix, or people forget that you have the advantage of. When you're leading the Grand Prix and you're just going into that clean air at the start of the race, when the tyres are trying to get up to temperature, and it's just so tight. Like, it's such a brilliant place to be at the start of a Grand Prix. That's why, you know, qualifying on pole position is such a coveted place to be in Formula One. Carlos Sainz, though, makes his way into the pits. And Carlos Sainz wanders back to the paddock. Probably not overly happy. Yesterday, he was on the third step of the podium. Got himself a lovely Austin belt buckle. And today, he's out before it even really got going. Lap 10 of the Grand Prix started then by Max Verstappen. Verstappen 2.8 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc. Lando Norris gaining on Leclerc, but not by a considerable margin. Still 1.9 seconds adrift, and Lewis Hamilton then falling back a couple of attempts from Lando Norris. Oscar Piastri still 1.6 seconds off Hamilton, and George Russell 1.2 seconds behind. Yuki Tsunoda then a couple of seconds adrift. Behrman in 8th place, a second behind as well. Hulkenberg 3 seconds behind in 9th. Fernando Alonso at the final point scoring place, still not within DRS. Pierre Gasly is the first driver within DRS range of the next driver. He's down in 12th position. Gabriel Bortoleto also has DRS to Pierre Gasly in front. That's where everybody currently sits, and maybe everybody just using that virtual safety car to get themselves some clean air. And we are trying to get to a position where possibly they can elongate their first stints. Thinking about tyre degradation versus everybody else around them. Lando Norris just needs to keep a little eye on Lewis Hamilton behind. Norris has slowed down a touch, 1.9 seconds now the gap between Leclerc and Norris. I think Lando Norris may be just thinking, my front tyres are starting to smash away. And Lando Norris on the radio being told, from everything we've seen so far, looks more like Plan B. Plan B is what Lando Norris is being told by the McLaren mechanics. What happened to Carlos? Collision with Kimi Antonelli. Kimi Antonelli now sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. He is 6 seconds behind Isaac Hadjar, though. And it's going to be a struggle for Kimi Antonelli to finish where, well, he should have really finished in 7th place. He was running fairly comfortably there. He was under pressure from Carlos Sainz, but Carlos Sainz did just sort of drive into the side of him. Lance Stroll looking on board. 15th place for him at the moment. Just making a lunge at the back of Franco Colapinto, but nothing doing for now. And nobody is really making much progress anywhere, to be honest. Everyone's just settled in, I think, to this middle part of the Grand Prix. Everyone realizing that the tyres aren't quite lasting as long as they maybe thought. Lando Norris already on the radio complaining about his front tyres going away from him, and him expecting them to go a little bit better than they have been. And this is the thing, right? We've been talking about whether or not the soft compound tyre for Charles Leclerc would start to go off. And should be fairly soon if it does. In fact, as I've just said that, Lando Norris has gained 0.3 of a second on Charles Leclerc ahead. So this is where the soft compound tyre, with the virtual safety car, they can go a little bit longer. But this is where the soft compound tyre is likely to start to come towards the end of its lifespan. Lance Stroll does indeed make that move on Franco Colapinto and gets that move done. Lance Stroll up into 14th place. Verstappen still leads 3.5 seconds. Now the gap to Charles Leclerc behind, and Lando Norris chunks another 0.3 of a second out of Charles Leclerc, so he's 1.2 seconds adrift. Lando Norris realizing that maybe now is the time. Lance Stroll away from him fairly comfortably. Isaac Hadjar with a third strike of track limits already, by the way. Isaac Hadjar now running very close to the line. Remember, a fourth strike for track limits, that is a 5-second penalty. So the RB car has got to be very careful indeed for the remaining 45 laps. Max Verstappen comes across the start-finish line. And Lando Norris now starting to just look at the back of Charles Leclerc's car and think about what he could do to try and get past Charles Leclerc. Tried a little bit earlier on, was never able to make like a real go of it. There was a couple of half moves, wasn't there, from Lando Norris on Charles Leclerc, but he never fully committed to a move into turn 12 and was never close enough into turn 1, but now feels like he's gaining pretty considerably. Charles Leclerc's pace is starting to fall away on those soft compound tyres. And Lando Norris looking at a maneuver on the Monegasque man. Oscar Piastri, a 140.6 is falling away massively, Oscar Piastri. Maybe Piastri is going very long indeed on those tyres. I don't know. Feels like a bit of a weird one with Oscar Piastri right now. Feels miles off the pace in comparison. Lando Norris closing in, coming through turn 10 and turn 11. Is Lando Norris going to be able to make a move this time around? Let's see. They go through turn 11 now. Norris, though, I don't know if he was within DRS range as they came through between turn 10 and turn 11. No, he was not. So Lando Norris is going to have to wait even longer still, but is closing that gap to Charles Leclerc. And is going to surely be within DRS range next time around at least. Charles Leclerc under pressure. George Russell. Piastri seems slow. Think he's struggling with the front left. So even George Russell on the radio is saying, look, Piastri is holding me up at this point. Piastri trying to get a little bit longer out of those medium tyres, hopefully. Or just possibly really struggling with those front left tyres, or the front left tyre in particular. And that's costing him that much pace. Lando Norris, though, continuing on. Let's see if Lando Norris can get anywhere close to Charles Leclerc this time around. Charles Leclerc on the radio. Track limits for Norris, he says over the radio. Nothing showing yet. But Charles Leclerc keeping an eye on Lando Norris behind, clearly looking in his rear wing mirrors. And Lando Norris with DRS to Charles Leclerc this time around then. So Lando Norris is going to close the gap to the Monegasque man ahead of him. And is going to be back to within half a second of the Ferrari. Charles Leclerc's tyres are going to be screaming on that Scuderia car. Charles Leclerc got that position at the start of the Grand Prix. It was a great move from Charles Leclerc. Soft compound tyres. Knew he had the stickier rubber, so went super wide at turn 1. Round the outside of Lando Norris. Norris not quite able to live with it. And Charles Leclerc, by the time they got to turn 2, was able to just stick his Ferrari car in front. Charles Leclerc, those scrubbed set of softs that he started on, starting to drift away from him. And Lando Norris within half a second of the Ferrari, as he was towards the beginning of the Grand Prix. As I say, though, he wasn't able to really make too much of a move. Going for it this time around, though, feels different. This second opportunity that Norris has got to take back second place. You can see the tyres of Charles Leclerc's car starting to show those clear signs of degradation. Even with the virtual safety car, it's going to be fairly soon that the soft compound tyre runners pit. Bortoleto does. Bortoleto, 4.2 second stop for the Stakes Sauber car. It's going to come out at the back of the pack. Kimi Antonelli trying to close in on the back of Isaac Hadjar after his spin. But here comes Lando Norris then. Let's keep an eye on Lando. Is he going to be able to make a move for second place? Charles Leclerc again just positions his car right in the middle of the circuit. But Lando Norris doesn't give it up this time around. And through turn 13, looks to the side of the Ferrari. The Ferrari looking to close it through turn 14. But Lando Norris not giving it up at all. Going for the switch back through 15 and 16. Isn't able to do it this time around, though. And through turn 16, Charles Leclerc goes. And through turn 16, he is still leading the McLaren car. Lando Norris trying his absolute best to put Charles Leclerc off his mark at some point during that final sector. But Charles Leclerc able to hold on to it. Lando Norris, though, closer than he's been before, going up towards turn 1. DRS for Lando Norris, decides against the manoeuvre into the first corner, though. Came to blows with his teammate there yesterday. Doesn't want to repeat that. Continues behind Charles Leclerc for now. Lando also just getting a little bit of clean air, taking a slightly different line than Charles Leclerc, leading up to the S's. But Lando Norris closing in, and Charles Leclerc will know it's when, not if, Lando Norris will be able to get past that Ferrari, because the McLaren just looking much better on its tyres right now, and the medium compound tyre will go that little bit longer here in Austin. Lewis Hamilton also coming back into the picture, is now within DRS range of Lando Norris ahead. Oscar Piastri has fallen off a cliff. He's now 4.5 seconds adrift of this pack of 3 fighting for the podium places. Max Verstappen has also disappeared into the distance. 6.5 seconds Max Verstappen now leads this Grand Prix by. This is dominance from Max Verstappen if we have ever seen it. And it's not good news if you are a McLaren fan, because he looks to be back in the form of his life, really, Max Verstappen. Looking at the Mercedes of Kimi Antonelli here, as he has finally caught the back of Isaac Hadjar. See what Antonelli can do there from the back of the pack. Obviously, he's got damage to that Mercedes car, but be interesting to see if he can scythe his way through the field. A little bit of practice for Kimi Antonelli in overtaking slightly slower cars. Here we are then, Lando Norris, lap 17 of this Grand Prix. He's been stuck behind Charles Leclerc for all of them, and is trying his best to make a maneuver on the Ferrari. Just doesn't look like he's close enough, though, this time around. Felt like Lando Norris was closer to the back of the Ferrari last time, but maybe he's leaving it a little bit later in this first sector to close that gap. They come around turn 11 with one another. Lando Norris just 0.6 of a second adrift of the Ferrari. DRS opens up partway down this straight. Lando Norris is going to have to come from a very long way back here if he's going to make a move, and isn't able to make a move this time around. Charles Leclerc continues on then. And Charles Leclerc, again, Lando Norris has a little look through the final sector, but nothing going for Lando Norris at that point. Let's see if I can reset the chat once more. The map today just does not seem to be wanting to work at all. Apologies. It's not my end, unfortunately. It is from Multiviewer's end that the track map just doesn't seem to be having it. Kimi Antonelli making a move on Isaac Hadjar, and does indeed get that move on Isaac Hadjar done. So Antonelli up ahead of the Racing Bulls car and into 16th place, for Kimi Antonelli. Lando Norris, once again, we watch them come through the first sector together. Lando Norris really needs to get this move done, doesn't he? He is going to be absolutely desperate to get in front of Charles Leclerc's Ferrari as soon as he possibly can. But at the moment, Charles Leclerc doing more than enough to defend from Lando Norris. I think it's just the positioning of the Ferrari car down towards turn 12 is absolutely spot on from Charles Leclerc over and over again. And that just means he is much, much better position to then get through turn 13 and defend that second place from the McLaren. But let's see if Lando Norris can get it this time around or not. It's looking more like a not, isn't it? Lando just doesn't feel as close as he was before. Maybe I'm wrong. Lando Norris still trying to catch the back of Charles Leclerc. Gets a little bit of clean air before they come through turn 10. DRS activation point a little bit further down after turn 11. The DRS is indeed open for Lando Norris once more, as it feels like it is every lap at this point. But he just doesn't feel as close as he was even last lap, let alone close enough to make a move for position. And he doesn't. Charles Leclerc stays ahead of Lando Norris for now. Albon is also now closing on to the back of Isaac Hadjar. Isaac Hadjar on the hard compound tyre started the race on it. Alex Albon has got a fresh set of mediums. Or, well, I say a fresh set. 10-lap-old set of mediums after swapping very early on. Alex Albon. And Charles Leclerc has got to continue on, because otherwise he knows that Lando Norris is going to be able to get the undercut. So Charles Leclerc is doing everything he possibly can with those soft compound tyres and holding up Lando Norris wherever he possibly can. The gap now at the front, 8 seconds to Max Verstappen. Like, it's played perfectly into Max Verstappen's hands. If you're a Verstappen fan, you can buy Charles Leclerc a drink, because he has absolutely smashed it for Max Verstappen here. He's been able to get in front of the McLaren car and then just sit in front of it, slowing the McLaren down for 19 laps. What can Lando Norris do here? He's got to go for something, but Charles Leclerc has just about got enough every single time around. He's closer than he has been. Lap 19 of this Grand Prix. Lando Norris comes around at turn 11 within half a second of Charles Leclerc. It's going to have to be a lunging move. He goes to the outside of the track. Charles Leclerc positions himself on the inside towards the apex. Lando Norris tries to maybe go for the switchback around turn 13. He's going to try and go around the outside, but Charles Leclerc pushes him wide, and Charles Leclerc slams that door shut. Lando Norris sent off the racetrack, rejoins behind Charles Leclerc. Thank you, GameStar70, for the super chat. For Max, Leclerc has proven to be a godsend today. Absolutely. Charles Leclerc gaining that position. And now is just, again, while they battle one another, you see Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris lost a second or so through that middle part of the lap. Just Max Verstappen, 9 seconds in the lead now. Every single time Lando Norris has to squabble with Leclerc, it is time that Max Verstappen is pocketing. And we are looking at a very, very dominant performance from Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen then, 9 seconds. Lando Norris, half a second behind Charles Leclerc and desperate to gain that position. Lewis Hamilton, 1.2 seconds behind. I think it's just biding his time a touch. Knows that if there's any touch between Leclerc and Norris, he'll be the beneficiary of it. Oscar Piastri, 4 seconds adrift. And Piastri so slow in comparison to the rest of the cars out on track at the moment. Still nothing in the McLaren pit box, though. Still nothing at the Ferrari pit box either. Charles Leclerc on the soft compound tyre, remember. Lando Norris still looking at the back of Charles Leclerc. Just feels closer and closer. But then coming through this final sector, Charles Leclerc is able to do just enough. Turn 17, 18. Braking zone of 19 has got just enough grip to keep Lando Norris at bay. Knowing that even with the DRS up towards turn 1, Lando Norris can't make a move up the hill. And then Charles Leclerc able to escape away through the S's also just enough by the time they get to turn 11. Lando Norris isn't quite close enough. Let's see what he can do on lap 21 of this Grand Prix then. Can he finally make a move? Ooh. And Lando Norris gets another strike. So that is 3 track limits infringements for Lando Norris. Another strike and it will be a penalty for him. Isaac Hadjar also having to play it safe. And black and white flag for Lando Norris. Thank you, Tim Ash, for the 99 cents. Appreciate that. Charles Leclerc now way closer Lando Norris this time around. Surely this is going to be the chance. Within 0.4 of a second, Lando Norris as he opens the DRS. Charles Leclerc is going to position himself to the left-hand side of the track, but Lando Norris should get this move done before the corner even comes, and he does indeed. Lando Norris finally ahead of Charles Leclerc. Possibly a little bit of a mistake from Charles Leclerc through that first part of the lap that opened the door for Lando Norris there, because he was so much closer than he was previously. And Lando Norris does indeed get back up into second place where he started the Grand Prix, but also is 10 seconds adrift of the current leader, Max Verstappen. And Lando Norris not very happy at all about the black and white flag that he got for track limits, saying that he got one of those strikes because of a battle with Charles Leclerc where he was pushed wide. And I have to agree with Lando Norris there. The one that he got for going off at turn 13 does feel a little bit harsh, considering Charles Leclerc closed the door on him. But track limits be track limits, I guess. And Oscar Piastri is finally gaining a little bit of pace on Lewis Hamilton at this point. Now down 3.6 seconds rather than the 4.5 that it was previously. But Lando Norris now up into second place. What happened to Sainz? He made contact with Kimi Antonelli earlier on in the Grand Prix. He thinks he was pushed off, so hopefully take that into consideration. I would hope so, yeah. But still, I think Lando Norris just needs to be a little bit careful here of the track limits. And Lewis Hamilton now also has the pace on Charles Leclerc. Is Charles Leclerc going to let his teammate past? His teammate on the medium compound tyre? And that would be a no. Lewis Hamilton is having to fight side by side with Charles Leclerc. They're going to go through turn 13. Too wide. And Charles Leclerc through turn 14 closes the gap on his teammate. And Lewis Hamilton is going to have to make the move of his own. Tries the old switchback through turn 15, possibly. Not this time around. Charles Leclerc escapes away from his teammate for now. Interesting that the Ferrari team haven't decided to change this around, and instead they decide to box Charles Leclerc to get him out of the way of Lewis Hamilton. So Hamilton's going to move up into third place. Charles Leclerc done a lot longer on those soft compound tyres than I was expecting. So Charles Leclerc now pits. He'll come out on those fresh tyres. It is medium compound tyres for Charles Leclerc, a 2.3 second stop for him. And this could play into Charles Leclerc's favour a little bit. Everyone else is likely to go onto the hard compound tyre, you would imagine. And he's now going to be on the mediums. Of course, they're going to be a little bit older than everybody else's mediums around him, but we'll have to wait and see. Ferrari have done Max Verstappen a dream job here, because Lando Norris now still over 10 seconds adrift of the race leader. Brand new medium set of tyres for Charles Leclerc, who comes out in a nice little gap actually behind Nico Hülkenberg. He's got 5 seconds of track to run into, and he knows that a lot of those cars in front of him will be pitting fairly soon as well. You're looking at Hülkenberg and Behrman and Tsunoda. They all started on the medium compound tyre, and they've all been in the traffic of the midfield. So I imagine those medium compound tyres are not going to last that many laps longer by the time Charles Leclerc catches up to the back of them. Max having a little Sunday drive. Yeah, it does feel that way, doesn't it? Just absolutely flying is Max Verstappen at this point, disappearing into the distance and nowhere close to anybody else at this point in the Grand Prix as Max Verstappen, but that's where he has ended up being. I'll try and reset the map once again. Try my best, hoping and dreaming that it will come back to life, but the track map just does not seem to want to work today, unfortunately. Apologies, guys. Lewis Hamilton in P3, 3 seconds behind Lando Norris, but really seeming to go for it now. So possibly the end of those medium compound tyres coming soon for Lewis Hamilton, because he seems to be rinsing the final little bit of life out of them. You can see that front right tyre is really showing the graining, and actually the front left as well. These little bumps and bruises that you can see on the tyres as they come through that middle part of the lap. Max Verstappen leisurely at this point. Here we go then. Oscar Piastri, 3.3 seconds behind Hamilton. George Russell then another 2.5 seconds adrift. Yuki Tsunoda, 5.5 seconds adrift in 6th place right now. Charles Leclerc, the only driver in the top 10 to have pitted so far though. So we're kind of just waiting on the pit stops at this point in the Grand Prix. Gonna have to wait for them to shuffle into position. How impressive from Tsunoda. It's been a very good drive, actually. Like, he's been the beneficiary of the Carlos Sainz, Kimi Antonelli bump, but give him his credit, he also got ahead of the likes of Behrman and Alonso, and started in 13th place did Yuki Tsunoda. So very, very solid to move up into effectively what is 7th place at this point. I know he's one of the top cars, so you could kind of say he should be, but never guaranteed, as Esteban Ocon comes into the pits ahead of Alex Albon. So Ocon is the next driver to come into pit. Charles Leclerc is gaining pretty considerably on Nico Hülkenberg. The gap was 5 seconds, now down to 2.5. Hülkenberg is still yet to pit though, so Charles Leclerc will be hoping that those medium compound runners ahead will be pitting fairly soon, and then allowing him to gain the advantage of not having to deal with those back markers. Lewis Hamilton is 18.6 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc being shown there. So Charles Leclerc still effectively running in 3rd place, because he knows that once everybody in front of him stops, unless there's a safety car and they can obviously pit and get a little bit shorter of a stop, it's looking very likely that Charles Leclerc will still pick up a podium place. That is obviously the medium tyres that he's got will be that little bit more rubbered in. Is everybody else just waiting? Lap 26 of the Grand Prix then. Still 30 laps left to play out. And the pit stops yet to come for those medium runners, but everybody's a good chunk behind one another at this point. Let's have a little look at the championship as it stands right now, whilst everyone is pretty much locked into their positions before they pit. Piastri 12 points for him at the moment. Likely that will drop, though, as Charles Leclerc is running effectively ahead of him. 348 points that would be for him, though. Lando Norris would move up into 332. Max Verstappen up to 306. And 42 points would be the gap between Verstappen and Piastri. As I say, Piastri likely to drop down to 10. So it's going to be 40 points between Verstappen and Piastri for the title. And it's getting very tight indeed. It'll be 14 points between Piastri and Lando Norris. And just think, if Lando Norris hadn't lost those 10 points in Canada and hadn't had that issue in the Netherlands, he would now be leading the Drivers' Championship, but Oscar Piastri still with it in his hands for now, even with a poor showing, it feels like, this afternoon. Looking at Alex Albon fighting Franco Colapinto for position. Can Alex Albon get in front of the Alpine car? And this is the thing that Charles Leclerc has to maybe worry about a little bit. These back markers fighting for position and then maybe making contact with one another as Albon gets very close to the rear end of the Alpine, but judges it perfectly. I was panicked. Alex Albon was not, and Alex Albon gets the position on Franco Colapinto. Ooh, that was a tight move from Alex Albon, but judged to perfection. Verstappen on the radio. Tyres are becoming tricky. Yeah, we think maybe conditions are changing a little bit here, Max, is what GP tells his driver over the radio. Piastri's dropping the ball. I think Piastri's just having a tough weekend. He's never been amazing here in Texas. Well, in the 2 Grand Prix that we've seen. Max. It's a good thing for Max, though, that it is a longer lap around here. He hasn't got any back markers to deal with. So even if those tyres are starting to go off a touch, he's still got a lot of clean air in front of him. And he can wait for the majority of the back markers to pit as well, so that when he pits, he won't run into them for another chunk of time. Hamilton on the podium, yes, but won't be. Charles Leclerc has pitted, and Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, Piastri, Russell, Tsunoda, Behrman in front of him, yet to pit. Nico Hülkenberg, though, has yet to have pitted as well, but Charles Leclerc has made the move on Nico Hülkenberg and been able to get past the Stake Sauber car. This was the thing Charles Leclerc would have been hoping not to have happen at this moment, because Charles Leclerc having to deal with the back markers now. I think he'd have hoped lap 25, lap 26, these back markers would have pitted and therefore allowed him to get through comfortably, but Behrman and Tsunoda are still running and racing in front of him and don't look like they're going to stop anytime soon. Franco Colapinto and Pierre Gasly swapping positions as Gasly pits as well, so the Alpine car coming in. Max Verstappen, plan at this stage, Max, if we can, is to extend as long as possible. We look at an alternative strategy. God, I can't get that word out. Alternative strategy. Charles Leclerc, DRS with Ollie Behrman. Is Behrman going to put up too much of a fight against a Ferrari? Probably not. And he doesn't. Charles Leclerc moves up into 7th place, and Behrman, as I say, doesn't put up too much of a battle with possibly his future teammate there, Charles Leclerc. If Charles Leclerc sticks around at Ferrari, you'd imagine Ollie Behrman will be the driver Ferrari look to once Lewis Hamilton calls it quits. Charles Leclerc now a second off the back of Yuki Tsunoda, the next driver in the list that he needs to tick off to get back up to the podium places. And here's a replay of Pierre Gasly's stop. Oh, and it was a very slow stop on the rear left for Pierre Gasly. That's not going to help his race at all. Wasn't looking like points were on the cards, but has slotted himself out the back of the pack and is a considerable margin off everybody else, thanks to that slow stop. George Russell running in 5th place at the moment, catching up with him. He's 1.5 seconds behind Piastri. Piastri actually struggling at the moment. Piastri's now 5 seconds adrift of Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton 6.5 seconds adrift of Lando Norris. And I think a lot of the teams towards the front are just going, we'll take it. We're not going to get anywhere further. And Piastri on the radio. Piastri on the radio. Thoughts on a soft to get to the end from here? Piastri says unlikely. And again, we're seeing the tyre degradation is absolutely, well, nowhere, to be honest, as Charles Leclerc tries to make a move on Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda, though, putting up a fight, knowing that Charles Leclerc will be fighting for those podium places. And someone needs to tell Yuki Tsunoda that Max Verstappen is more than far enough ahead, because he doesn't really need to put up a battle with Charles Leclerc. He's not really racing him this afternoon, but Charles Leclerc, even with Yuki Tsunoda putting up a fight, able to get past him fairly comfortably, and Charles Leclerc up into 6th place. Oh, and here comes Yuki Tsunoda. Oof, thought it was Max Verstappen coming in then for a second, but it is not. It is his Japanese teammate in for his one and likely only pit stop of the race. A change of tyres at Red Bull, and let's see what ones go on. It's a soft compound tyre for Yuki Tsunoda. So it does feel like everybody going for the medium and soft compound tyre for the racing here. The hard compound tyre, not worth using by the looks of things. Tsunoda comes out of the pits in 11th place, is 5 seconds adrift of Lawson, has a lovely little gap to run into, to be fair. I think that's a good choice from the Red Bull team. Oscar Russell is within undercut range. Would you prefer to pit onto the soft or let him go and have to pass out on track? That is not the kind of thing that you want to hear if you're an Oscar Piastri fan. That he is looking backwards rather than forwards at this point in the Grand Prix. Oscar Piastri is going to be coming in by the looks of things. Box for Oscar Piastri. The McLaren pit crew are out and in the pit lane. Oh, and Piastri there then. I think Mercedes were thinking about coming in, but allowing George Russell to continue on then. George Russell does indeed continue. Let's see where Piastri is going to come out. He's going to come out behind Nico Hülkenberg by 7 seconds. He's going to have a long final stint on those soft compound tyres as Oscar Piastri. But at least has got some clean air in front of him to run into, because he was really struggling in the dirty air. George Russell, a little bit of a lock-up into turn 12 and goes very wide indeed through turn 12, losing about half a second or so to Oscar Piastri ahead. Not what he'd have wanted, considering he's now seen that Oscar Piastri has pitted in front of him. He's got some clean air to run into. Let's see if George Russell does indeed come in fairly soon. See if I can just reset this track map completely one more time. Still a couple of laps behind, isn't it? The track map. Lewis Hamilton coming into the pits. Hamilton then deciding that now is the time. Charles Leclerc is going to get that position back from his teammate. And therefore, Charles Leclerc gleaming at this point, I'd imagine, because he's been waiting for everybody in front of him to pit. George Russell 15 seconds behind Lando Norris in second spot. It's a very long way to go for Lando Norris to catch up to the back of Verstappen, and similar for Russell to do anything from third. I think, unfortunately, we're looking at a second half of the race where everybody pretty much just slots into where they are and not too much happens. Kimi Antonelli decides now is the time to swap his tyres as well. Antonelli in and back out, still running towards the back end of the grid. Let's see then, who hasn't pitted yet? Verstappen hasn't pitted. Norris hasn't pitted. Russell hasn't pitted. We are looking at Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg hasn't pitted either yet on the medium tyre. Albon, Colapinto. But the majority of drivers starting to shuffle into their positions. And, oh, Lando Norris struggling on those tyres and gets the call to box this lap. Lando Norris has had enough of those mediums. Tried to elongate as long as he possibly could. Goes on to a set of soft compound tyres as well, Lando Norris. It's a 3.8 second stop. George Russell is going to be able to get ahead just for now. Yes, he is indeed. There is George Russell. Goes through. There goes Charles Leclerc as well going through. So it's just made that afternoon drive for Lando Norris just that bit more tricky once more, as Lando Norris now has to get past Charles Leclerc out on track once again. Charles Leclerc going from the soft to the medium. Lando Norris from the medium to the soft. But Lando Norris back down to effectively running in third place. Max Verstappen looks to be boxing at this point. Makes sense. He's got more than enough of a gap to George Russell behind. 25 seconds the gap between Verstappen and Russell at this point. And Lando Norris, is this why he decided to come in? Yeah, he's completely flat spotted that front left tyre trying to go through turn 12. He'd have had a big vibration through there as well, and that might have even been one of the reasons he ended up so far behind Charles Leclerc. He's 4 seconds adrift of the Ferrari, but here comes Max Verstappen then, lap 33 of this Grand Prix. Make that 34 as he comes into the pits and ticks over the start line. And very solid stop from Red Bull, a 2.6 second stop. George Russell is only just coming around the final corner. Will George Russell actually get in front of Max Verstappen? Oh, sorry, that's not even the final corner for George Russell. It's the penultimate corner. And then he's into the pits anyway. So we will not see whether George Russell might have just snuck in front of Max Verstappen. Unlikely, considering the gap between the two of them. But Russell is in and back out. Nico Hülkenberg also pits for Stake Sauber. Let's hope he doesn't get in the way of George Russell. He doesn't. Just about enough space for Russell to run out and be okay. Piastri gets back past once again. And George Russell is going to slot back in to 6th place. So we are back where we started, really. Verstappen, Leclerc, Norris, our top three. Hamilton in 4th, Piastri in 5th, and George Russell in 6th, with Tsunoda, the closest competitor, behind in 7th spot. Ollie Behrman best of the rest. Nico Hülkenberg in 9th, and Alex Albon has done a sublime job once again to get into 10th place. Problem is, if those medium tyres are going to last until the end of this Grand Prix. It's Franco Colapinto yet to have pitted behind. Gabriel Bortoleto also pitted very, very early, by the way. So Fernando Alonso is within touching distance of a possible point scoring place, as Franco Colapinto does eventually pit. So he's going to go all the way to the back of the pack. And Alex Albon is going to be under pressure from Fernando Alonso very, very soon, you would imagine. What is the gap between them? Oh, actually, it's 8 and a bit seconds between Alonso and Albon. So even on the soft compound tyre, Alex Albon's just got to hold on to 8 seconds worth of track time. Oh, and there's a big spin by Ollie Behrman as he fights with Yuki Tsunoda. And it manages to avoid Yuki Tsunoda, but Behrman now under pressure from Hülkenberg. Behrman loses out massively. He went for a move on Yuki Tsunoda. They were battling through that final sector. Does feel like everybody is getting brave through turn 13, 14 and 15 today. And Ollie Behrman sent for a spin as he went over the bumps. And Nico Hülkenberg is now going to mount a challenge on Ollie Behrman. Behrman just went way too deep into turn 14. And Yuki Tsunoda changes direction possibly mid-maneuver. And Ollie Behrman, that is indeed what he said. He moved under braking. And yeah, it does... I don't know. Yuki Tsunoda does make a little bit of a lunge to the right-hand side. But Ollie Behrman then has to get out of the way and go across the grass. It's a big bounce over the bumps for Ollie Behrman. And there we go. Going to be some very dirty tyres on that Haas car. Yellow flags were waved. And there we go. He is okay, though. Hülkenberg is still behind him. Oh, no, he isn't. Hülkenberg was able to mount a move on Ollie Behrman. Behrman has dropped behind Hülkenberg. I was looking at the race board, which is a little bit behind the TV. Hülkenberg is ahead of Ollie Behrman. I think Behrman's going to struggle on those tyres until the end of this Grand Prix. Alex Albon is 3 seconds behind. Fernando Alonso has dropped that gap from 8.5 to 7.2 seconds behind Alex Albon. So Fernando Alonso fans will be very happy indeed that he is closing in on a point scoring place, and Alex Albon on 27 lap old medium tyres to the 7 laps that Fernando Alonso's soft compound tyres have done. So Alonso should have a huge tyre advantage and therefore a huge pace advantage as well. We'll have to wait and see. Oh, the timing board has come back to life. Maybe the multi-viewer guys have been able to have a little look at it. Lando Norris closing into the back of Charles Leclerc once again. Needs to get a little bit closer, does Lando Norris, if he's really going to go for it. Lance Stroll started on the soft compound tyre and is actually making a move on Liam Lawson as well. So Lance Stroll might be able to get back into it. Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris fighting it out. Charles Leclerc will know that Lando Norris has also got to deal with some track limits infringements. And therefore, Charles Leclerc knowing he can just be a little bit tougher on Lando Norris at this point in the Grand Prix. Lando Norris on the soft compound tyre to Charles Leclerc's mediums, though. So we'll have a little bit of a tyre advantage in Lando Norris's favour. Lando Norris has got past Charles Leclerc once. Can he get past him again is the question now. As Max Verstappen only 6.5 seconds up the road. Maybe struggling a little bit more on these soft compound tyres, or possibly just taking it a little bit easy, knowing that he's got the gap to the cars behind. Lewis Hamilton, 9.6 seconds adrift of Norris, so feels like that is done and dusted. Piastri, 6.2 seconds in 5th place as well. George Russell, 2.3 seconds. Chances of George Russell making a move, possibly. Lando Norris, not close enough this time around, in my opinion, to make a move on Charles Leclerc, but in DRS range once again and closing the gap to the Monegasque man. Charles Leclerc under pressure for second place once more. And Lando Norris on the radio saying that the tyres have already gone. So not very happy at all that he is on the soft compound tyre, possibly. And this is the thing, Charles Leclerc on the mediums, maybe Lando Norris's tyres get him past, but if he then also loses some time because those tyres start to fall away from him, we start to have Charles Leclerc with the possibility of gaining pace, and we could see Lando Norris overtake Leclerc for then Leclerc to overtake Norris a little bit later on. 15 lap he's got left to go. Black and white flag for Kimi Antonelli now. It's a lot of track limits. Lando Norris, Gabriel Bortoleto, Isaac Hadjar, Kimi Antonelli, Alex Albon, all with black and white flags for track limit infringement. Stroll, Colapinto, Piastri also with 2 strikes each. Verstappen on the radio. Lando complaining about tyres now. This will be more fragile. So, Lando Norris possibly bluffing about his tyres because Red Bull not taking it seriously, and Max Verstappen being told to just maintain that gap to to Leclerc and Norris behind. 6.5 seconds is the current gap. Doesn't need to do anything drastic to elongate that at this point in the Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton then 10 seconds adrift in 4th spot. Oscar Piastri, you'd be hoping, would be catching up to the back of the Ferrari, but is 6.5 seconds adrift. Russell then 2.5 seconds. Yuki Tsunoda 7th place and 12.7 seconds behind. Hulkenberg has managed to get past Behrman. Hulkenberg up into 8th place. Been a very solid drive from Nico Hulkenberg, has to be said. That little mistake from Ollie Behrman, though, and the tangle with Yuki Tsunoda costing him best of the rest position. Hulkenberg up into there now. Behrman still running in the points, though, and Fernando Alonso has been able to get past Albon. Albon wasn't able to continue on and did pit. I missed that, but pitted a few laps ago there. Alex Albon. So Alonso up into the points. Let's see what Liam Lawson's pace is like in comparison. Fairly comparable, if a little bit slower last lap, Liam Lawson. So 6-second lead. Yeah, it's a pretty heavy 6-second lead, isn't it? Distance increasing between Charles and Lando. Is indeed. Lando Norris not within DRS range now. Maybe it wasn't a bluff from Lando Norris. Maybe Lando Norris well and truly is struggling with those soft compound tyres already, and possibly Charles Leclerc with an absolute masterstroke, starting on the soft compound tyres and going on to the medium compound tyres. Might have been the better of the two strategies. He had to really defend and hold position for second place during that first stint. Eventually lost out to Norris, but as soon as he lost out to Norris, got himself in the pits, got those fresher tyres on, gained the position through the pit stops, did Charles Leclerc. And now Lando Norris struggling behind the Ferrari once again. Just edging away as well. Max Verstappen was 6.5 seconds, now closing in on 7-second gap between Verstappen and Leclerc. Hamilton is actually closing up to the back of Norris now. Lando Norris could be in a real sticky situation. Max Verstappen, I'm just suddenly sliding a lot. So Max Verstappen really not happy inside of that Red Bull car. And the race leader, Max Verstappen. 11 laps completed on those soft compound tyres, and looking like a comfortable victory for the current world champion. Let's have a little look at the Drivers' Championship at this point in the race then, because it's changed just slightly now that everybody has done their pit stops. Oscar Piastri up to 3.46, so the gap would be 40 points to Max Verstappen in third, with Verstappen picking up 33 points this weekend, another 25 in this Grand Prix. Lando Norris would jump up to 329, so would be 17 points behind his teammate. Jumping up 5 points, was 22 points before this weekend started. Again, both of them dropping points during the sprint race after the collision between the two. George Russell would jump up to 252. Leclerc and Hamilton would gain points as well in 5th and 6th place, but stay where they are. Big winner would be Nico Hülkenberg. 4 points for him would move him up to 9th place in the driver's standings, and sort of best of the midfield, other than Alex Albon, who's in a league of his own in the midfield drivers. Isaac Hadjar and Carlos Sainz would move out of the way for him. Fernando Alonso gaining a point, though, would keep himself in contention for that best of the rest, other than Alex Albon position that we've got in the standings. Yuki Tsunoda would gain 6 points up to 28 and be on the same as Esteban Ocon. And Ollie Behrman's 2 points gained would move him ahead of Gabriel Bortoleto in the standings as well, is what it looks like at the moment. To be honest, can I see any big changes in the next 13 laps? I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's looking like it's pretty much done and dusted. Whilst we're here, if you could leave a like on the channel, that'd be absolutely amazing. Subscribe to the channel as well. We're trying to get to 150,000 subscribers before the end of the year. 5 more race weekends to try and be able to do it. We're about 10,000 subscribers away from it. Maybe 9,000 now. After this weekend, we had a very good surge of subscribers over the last couple of weeks, which has been lovely to see. Max Verstappen continues on, though. If you are watching on Twitch, if you could give us a follow, that'd be absolutely amazing. We're trying to hit 700 followers before the end of the year. And if you haven't seen it, the Crash Happy podcast is my brand new venture with Mr. V, Dan No Skill, Mr. Pulse, and Formula Duck. The 5 of us starting the Crash Happy podcast and just having fun over there, to be honest. It is a podcast where we talk about Formula One, but we also talk about a lot of things not Formula One based. And we've got a few gaming videos coming up. We've got a few other ideas that we've got in the pipeline. I think it's just going to be a really fun channel for everybody involved. So make sure you head over to Crash Happy as well, because we're going to try and get 10,000 subscribers over on Crash Happy before the end of the year as well. Subbed, thank you so much. Is the map updated? Yes, after multiple refreshers and 45 laps of it not really being in the right place, it's just about caught up with real life, I think. Lando Norris continues on in 3rd place, and he really has fallen away from the back of Charles Leclerc. 2.7 seconds now the gap between Leclerc and Norris. Those tyres struggling in the dirty air behind the Ferrari. And Piastri's not having a fun weekend either. He's down in 5th place, and it just seems like a million miles away from the McLaren car in the first half of the season that was winning 1-2s and making it look comfortable. You look at like the Austrian Grand Prix, for example, or even as recent as the Netherlands Grand Prix, where they were just so quick, so dominant. Just feels like a completely different season now for the 2 McLaren cars. And despite absolutely nailing the Constructors' Championship and getting it over the line last time out in Singapore, everything else around them starting to crumble. And Lando Norris on the radio once again. Yep, I'm just slow. I don't have the grip when I'm close. Okay, mate. Understand. Right now, the pace is really strong. We're under threat from behind. So let's make sure that we go and get Leclerc is the call on the radio. 5th is better than a DNF. Very true. It is still 10 points on the board. Imagine if it wasn't, though. If Oscar Piastri did DNF here, Max Verstappen would be 30 points away from the top of the championship with 5 races and 2 sprint races to go. 30 points would be... I mean, 40 points is getting me a little bit worried, but 30 points would be something completely different. Antonelli and Russell failed the mission to make the McLarens go kaboom. I don't think George Russell would be wanting to do Max Verstappen any favours, to be honest. But Charles Leclerc has done an absolute dream job for Max Verstappen in this race. Lando Norris would have been the closest competitor to Max Verstappen, but Charles Leclerc able to keep him at bay throughout that entire first stint, and then has done more than a good enough job in this second stint as well. Came in early, got those medium tyres on, put the lap times in when he needed to. Now looking very comfortable in second place indeed, Charles Leclerc. And how it can change, you know, George Russell, second fastest in the sprint race yesterday. We were going, oh, okay, maybe Max Verstappen is the quickest, but we don't really know who's second fastest because we didn't see the two McLarens, and the Ferraris felt like they were an age away. But how it can change. Charles Leclerc now second fastest. George Russell down in 6th place. The two McLarens have only been able to slot in 3rd and 5th. Not where we're expecting to see them at all. Yuki Tsunoda has done a stunning job in 7th place, has to be said. Moved up from 13th. Did really well early on in the Grand Prix. Got those moves done. And then the beneficiary, of course, of Carlos Sainz and Kimi Antonelli coming together. But if the opportunity arises, you got to take it, and Yuki Tsunoda certainly did. Same could be said for Nico Hülkenberg, up in 8th place, started in 11th, and has moved up ahead of Ollie Behrman. Behrman down in 9th place after that tangle with Yuki Tsunoda cost him a position. And then Fernando Alonso running in the final point-scoring place. Liam Lawson a second or so behind Fernando Alonso. Be interesting to see if the RB car can get to within touching distance of Fernando Alonso over the last couple of laps. But Lance Stroll is also within DRS range of Liam Lawson behind. So we could see a little battle between the Aston Martins here with a Red Bull racing car in between, or an RB racing, Visa Cash App RB racing car, I should say, in between. Lance Stroll's coming on the medium tyre as well. Kimi Antonelli has just made a move on Esteban Ocon, and Ocon down into 14th place. Antonelli back up into 13th. Kimi Antonelli does also have the fastest lap of the Grand Prix to his name at this moment in time. Isaac Hadjar is fighting with Pierre Gasly. So although the top 9 looks pretty locked in and unlikely to see any kind of changes happening, although Charles Leclerc is now only 1.5 seconds ahead of Lando Norris. So Lando Norris stepping on the gas pedal a little bit after holding onto his tyres for a few laps. The battles outside of the top 10 start to really heat up. Lawson is now within DRS range of Fernando Alonso ahead. Alonso on slightly older set of soft compound tyres. Lance Stroll on the mediums in 12th place. And maybe has got the better of the strategies at Aston Martin. Kimi Antonelli, though, is 4 seconds adrift there. He's just made a move on Ocon, who's falling away from the back of the Mercedes car. Alex Albon making a run, though. He's in 15th place and catching up to the back of Esteban Ocon quickly. Albon going to be able to make a move sometime soon. And Isaac Hadjar is very, very close to the back of Pierre Gasly. Hadjar coming through turn 10. Within touching distance of the Alpine car. I think we could see a little battle between Hadjar and Gasly here. Down towards turn 12 they go. Hadjar going to be able to make a move. Not this time around, but Hadjar closing in to the back of the Frenchman's car. And Verstappen, lap 49 of this Grand Prix. And 7 seconds ahead. Lando Norris fans, though, something to shout about. Here we go. We are closing in on DRS range once again. Lando Norris deciding that now is the time to stretch these soft compound tyres. He's not going to have much left at the end. Oof. Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris now within a second. And just as I was saying, the top 9 feel like they're locked in. Lando Norris has decided to come back to life once again. George Russell is also close to within 3 seconds of Oscar Piastri, but I can't see him closing that 2.8 second gap in the last 6 laps of this Grand Prix. And Charles Leclerc, a little bit of sliding out of that final corner. It's going to give Lando Norris a little bit of confidence. Lando Norris 0.6 of a second adrift of Leclerc as they come through the first corner. 6 laps then Lando Norris has. 3 points would be gained if he can get past Charles Leclerc here. 3 points that could be massive come Abu Dhabi in just 4 races time. Charles Leclerc still on the podium. Yeah, he would still be on the podium if Lando Norris does get this move done. Don't get me wrong, it's still a good drive from Charles Leclerc and much, much better than we were expecting, especially after we saw the sprint pace from them. But Charles Leclerc won't want to give up this second place very easily. Charles Leclerc's not bothered about Lando Norris gaining 3 points in the championship. Just a little bit too far behind on this occasion, Lando Norris, but now within half a second of Charles Leclerc. Leclerc has seen all the tricks from Lando Norris earlier on in the Grand Prix, so Lando Norris is going to have to get some new tricks out of the bag if he's going to be able to get past. Oh my goodness me, I'm very tense. I really want Lando Norris to make this move, but I just feel like he can't be too overzealous with it. I don't want to see him crash into the side of Charles Leclerc and then completely fall down the order. I suppose it would help out Oscar Piastri. Piastri would gain a position if Lando Norris takes himself out of this Grand Prix, or even takes himself and Leclerc out of this Grand Prix. He goes for it at turn 1. Charles Leclerc caught sleeping, and Charles Leclerc, aware of it though, saw Lando Norris dart the inside of turn 1, and Leclerc gets the switchback. And that's the first time we've seen Lando Norris make a move into turn 1. And I think it caught Charles Leclerc a little bit by surprise, but he was able to react to it. And Charles Leclerc maintains second place for now. They continue through the S's. Lando Norris still within half a second of the Ferrari. And he just saw that little opening, did Lando Norris, but just wasn't quite able to rotate the car quick enough. Whereas Charles Leclerc going that little bit wider at turn 1. Was able to get that move, but Charles Leclerc out of position through that first sector has meant Lando Norris is closer than he has been before. Lando Norris is going to go to the inside of the track at turn 12, and Charles Leclerc is going to have nothing to deal with it. And here goes Lando Norris up the inside at turn 12. Charles Leclerc has a little look at possibly getting back at him through turn 13, but no, Lando Norris has got the move done, and he's up into second place. So another 3 points in the pocket of Lando Norris, and he moves to within 14 points of Oscar Piastri at the top of the standings. Very, very nice move indeed from Lando Norris there. I think actually the move into turn 1 just unsettled Charles Leclerc enough that through that first sector he wasn't quite able to escape in the way that he has previously. Lando Norris on the radio. Oh, sorry, Charles Leclerc, keep pressure on him as he has 3 strikes. So Charles Leclerc being told, look, let's go for it. Let's try and push him. If we can put him off the racetrack or make him make a mistake, he will get that 5-second penalty. And Charles Leclerc dropping down into P3 then. Lewis Hamilton still P4, Oscar Piastri still P5. George Russell hasn't been able to get any closer to Oscar Piastri. He's still in 6th place. Tsunoda in 7th. 20 seconds adrift of George Russell. That is the gap between the top 6 and the rest of the field, isn't it? Like, these top 6 drivers are just in a field of their own compared to the rest of the pack, even with Yuki Tsunoda in a Red Bull. I mean, it's not quite the same Red Bull as Max Verstappen has got. There have been some very specific updates that have come just to Max Verstappen's side of the garage. We have to remember that, but makes sense when Max Verstappen is possibly fighting for a championship. Nico Hülkenberg still running in 8th place. Behrman has fallen a considerable chunk behind Hülkenberg since that overtake. 4.5 seconds now the gap between Hülkenberg and Behrman. And Liam Lawson, who was within a second of Fernando Alonso, has just fallen off the back of him. And Fernando Alonso looking very comfortable for that 10th place finish. Lance Stroll has also not been able to maintain the pace that he had previously. Norris, don't do anything stupid now. Yeah, please don't, Lando. Let's just take this second place and grab it. As I say, that would move Lando Norris to within 14 points of Oscar Piastri in the championship. He would be on 3-3-2, Oscar Piastri up to 3-4-6. So it really is all to play for. And Max Verstappen would be 40 points behind, 26 points though, behind Lando Norris. So still more than a win margin between Verstappen and Norris. But Norris very, very close to Oscar Piastri and closing that gap. And as I say, like if Lando Norris didn't drop those 10 points in Canada, for instance, he'd be right there, 4 points behind Piastri. That DNF in the Netherlands now playing dividends for Piastri because Lando Norris would be leading this championship without that DNF. It's gonna be a tense end to the season, but a fairly calm end to this race. Charles Leclerc now 3 seconds adrift of Lando Norris. Norris nowhere near the lead. Hamilton then 11 seconds off the back of Leclerc. And everybody settling into their positions. So that's us pretty much done and dusted here in Texas. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, that'd be absolutely amazing. Hit the like button on the stream as well. Helps out. Apologies for all of the issues with the track map. I feel like that's why the viewership this time around has been a little bit lower than normal. Oh, I say that there's not going to be too much going on, but Colapinto is having a little look at the back of his teammate Pierre Gasly. I wasn't looking far enough down the order. 17th, 18th, and 19th place is where the battles are. Gabriel Bortoleto looking at trying to make a move on the Argentine up into 18th place, and Colapinto also within DRS range of his teammate ahead. Colapinto doing a fairly decent job, actually. Getting very close indeed to the back of Pierre Gasly. Much fresher tyres as well. And will Colapinto be able to go racing with Gasly, or will the Alpine team ask him to sit behind his teammate? Let's have a little look. DRS opened up for Franco Colapinto. 0.4 of a second off of the back of his teammate. Goes to the right-hand side of the track. Gasly covers the inside line. Gabriel Bortoleto also there. And Colapinto is told to hold position, and he's not very happy about it because Colapinto says on the radio, Colapinto saying, why do I need to hold positions? He is slow. And he knows Gabriel Bortoleto is there as well. So I don't know if Franco Colapinto is going to listen to that because he is still very, very close to the back of Pierre Gasly. 0.3 of a second. There's blue flags as well for Gabriel Bortoleto, though, as he's just seeing Max Verstappen appear in his wing mirrors. Max Verstappen is indeed done, and Colapinto is going to make a move into turn one. They're going to get very, very close to one another, the Alpine cars. And Colapinto does get that move done. Forced Gasly just about off the track at turn one. And Colapinto told to hold positions. That's not what he did. He is now up into 17th place. I think Bortoleto kind of gave up on the idea, especially with the blue flags for Max Verstappen. Didn't want to ruin that relationship that he's got with Max Verstappen, probably. Bortoleto and Verstappen, very good friends. And Colapinto, this is the move down in towards turn one. Does run a little bit wide of the apex, Colapinto. It's not like he made the move perfectly, but it was a contentious run up the inside, considering the radio messages that have been said. And Gasly dropping behind his teammate. Colapinto knows that he's fighting for his career here. But we are on lap 55 of the Grand Prix. Max Verstappen about to make it 56. As Colapinto, the next driver with blue flags. So Verstappen's going to overtake Franco Colapinto. The next back marker is Isaac Hadjar, but Hadjar a little while up the road. So Verstappen starts the final lap of the Grand Prix. Colapinto moves out of his way. And it's going to be The first podium for Charles Leclerc for Ferrari in 5 races. It's been a little while. Gabriel Bortoleto has a look at Pierre Gasly into turn 1. They haven't given up on fighting with one another. Gabriel Bortoleto now getting alongside Pierre Gasly through the first sector and gets that move done, Bortoleto. So Gasly now at the back of the pack and Bortoleto up into 18th place. Just can't stop them racing, can you? Even though they are a lap behind the leaders, they are fighting for position tooth and nail. Max Verstappen started first, finishes first once again. It's another win for Max Verstappen in this second half of the Formula One season. And another 25 points on the board. 33 points for Max Verstappen across the weekend. Perfect in every manageable way. He's first in everywhere at this moment in time. Back-to-back wins across this weekend. Missed out on the win to George Russell in Singapore, but then one in Monza, one in Azerbaijan. Just looks to be a completely different beast in these final 5 races. And he's got 5 races left to get 40 points. Here we go. Another win for Max Verstappen in Austin. Comes around the final corner, across the finish line. And it is indeed another win for Max Verstappen. Lando Norris can only watch as he is 8 seconds adrift of Max Verstappen. 18 points on the board for Lando Norris, though. Charles Leclerc is going to get a lovely podium for Ferrari. Hamilton is going to come home in 4th place. Oscar Piastri was actually closing in on Lewis Hamilton a little bit towards the end there, but left it way too little, way too late. Oscar Piastri, he finishes in 5th. George Russell finishes in 6th place. Yuki Tsunoda then a very distant 7th. But he's got a couple of corners before he is able to come around in 7th place. Hülkenberg, best of the rest once again. Much, much better from the Stake Sauber team and a really solid weekend from Nico Hülkenberg. A shame we didn't get to see what he could do in the sprint, but at least get some points on the board during the Grand Prix. Ollie Behrman, similar, should have picked up points in the sprint had it not been for that 10-second penalty that he picked up. It was a warranted 10-second penalty, it feels, though. Behrman does indeed get a couple of points on the board. And Fernando Alonso, the final points scoring finisher. Liam Lawson, Lance Stroll, Antonelli, Albon, Ocon, Hadjar, Colapinto, Bortoleto and Gasly finish the race outside of the points. The one and only retirement from the Grand Prix, Carlos Sainz, after his collision with Kimi Antonelli early on in the Grand Prix that brought out the virtual safety car. Thank you guys so much for watching. It was tense, I will say. A very tense race at points, particularly if you're a Lando Norris fan. There was a lot of just little moments that I was worried about, but he eventually got there. Max Verstappen just in a league of his own once again, though. If you are a member, we will be live in... Let's give it 5 minutes time. I'll just quickly reset everything on here. We'll be live for the post-race members show. So if you are a member, look forward to seeing you there. If you're not a member, join the membership. Make sure you join and support the channel. Leave a like on the stream as well. Subscribe if you're new. Subscribe to Crash Happy if you haven't already. If you're watching us over on Twitch, leave us a follow. Trying to get 700 followers before the end of the season. We're up to 676. So dropping a follow would be absolutely magic. But I will say goodbye for now. I will see you in a week's time for the Mexican Grand Prix. Oh, I hit the button way too early there. But I will see you next time for the Mexican Grand Prix. Enjoy. Goodbye. Have a lovely week.